I don't need you to tell me how fucking good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is. When Bonnie goes shopping, she buys shit.
Like somebody who does not fit into this demographic once said, before we tread onto new territories, we must go back and fix some mistakes. This redux of things you didn't know about Pulp Fiction is mainly happening because I kind of fucked up, and the fans didn't take kindly. That said, the video was too long anyway, focusing on things you probably don't care about, and likely already knew. So I'm narrowing it down to 20. I'm going to repeat a few things, this is mainly a remake, but the point is to primarily bring up the facts you most likely didn't know, old or new. The film needs no introduction, it's fucking Pulp Fiction, so let's again get into the stuff you didn't know about this legendary movie. The bulk of the movie was written in Europe. Tarantino originally conceived the idea for Pulp Fiction with writer and director friend Roger Avary. The two worked together at an LA video rental shop, the Video Archives, and with the money he earned from Reservoir Dogs, he took a 3-month vacation to Amsterdam to write his new movie and potential inspiration. There's a scene in the movie when Vincent and Jules discuss the differences between McDonald's and Burger King in the United States and Europe, and while that could just be to set up the comedic tone, it's possible these were inspirations that made their way in the film. Can't guarantee that, but it does make sense. Uma Thurman was intimidated at the idea of dancing with Travolta. Due to his roles in other dancing-themed movies, mostly unknown, the idea of dancing with John Travolta is intimidating to say the least. Sure, his career wasn't exactly good at that point, similar to how it is now. This is the movie that revived it, until something else happened. But dancing is still the one thing you think of when it comes to his name, so the initial intimidation does make sense. Oddly enough, the scene was not written to have Travolta dance. It actually existed before he was even cast. And the song that plays, You Never Can Tell by Chuck Berry, wasn't to Uma Thurman's liking, stating it didn't sound right, but Tarantino insisted it was perfect. Inspired by Black Sabbath. If I really wanted to be cheap, I could have put this in the thumbnail, pretended it was inspired by the classic heavy metal band, but that's not the same Black Sabbath. No, the initial inspiration for Tarantino and Avary's script was the 1963 horror film of the same name, which did also give Black Sabbath their name, makes it a pretty important movie I'd say, but the similarities come in as the film is written in 3 separate parts just like Pulp Fiction. They initially called the script Black Mask after a popular crime magazine of the 1920s, and Tarantino said he got the idea of doing something novelists get a chance to do, but filmmakers don't. Obviously it's been done to death now, but at the time, not so much. Jules and Vincent could have been quite different. As for characters almost being played by somebody else for various reasons, this may be the most interesting. Early in the casting, Tarantino thought about Tim Roth playing Vincent and Gary Oldman as Jules, rewriting the characters as 2 English guys. That's a concept there, but that's not all. Of the actors considered for Jules, Lawrence Fishburne, Eddie Murphy, and Michael Beach, it was actor Paul Calladrin who blew Tarantino away in his audition. He came very close to getting the role until Samuel Jackson came in, and unlike the dancing scene with Travolta, he wrote the role specifically for him after he auditioned for Reservoir Dogs a couple of years earlier. Despite all this, Paul did still appear in the movie as a bartender named Paul, who says, "Hey man, my name's Paul, and this shit's between y'all." The overdose scene was shot in reverse. I'm pretty confident you know about this scene as one of the most talked about tricks in the movie. The scene when Mia must be given the injection after overdosing, they shot it in reverse, having Travolta pull the syringe up to make it look more effective. It's a common fact used for many thumbnails on this concept because it's so inventive. So as an add-on, I'll mention Eric Stoltz, who plays Lance, was also offered the role of Jimmy, and Tarantino would play the other. He told Eric he could play one of 2 roles, which both involved wearing bathrobes, but the main reason Tarantino ended up playing Jimmy was so he could be behind the camera during the shot. Butch's cab driver was written for the actress who plays her. Upon Butch fleeing after the fight he was supposed to lose, he's picked up by a cab driver played by Angelina Jones. Tarantino saw Jones in the 1991 film called Curdled, when she plays somebody whose job it is to clean up crime scenes after murders. Tarantino approached Jones to play the role, the idea being she'd be another version of that character. That's why she's so fascinated with death and asked Butch what it's like to kill a man. It's a bit of unknown backstory for a less talked about character. The meaning of the briefcase. The briefcase in Pulp Fiction is kind of like the Eagles tune, Hotel California. Nobody knows quite what it is, but we do know it's probably nothing. They achieved the look with a light bulb and had a battery inside, and that trick led to many discussions with an answer that's non-existent. A common theory is it's the diamonds they stole in Tarantino's debut film Reservoir Dogs, and while that is a good theory, it's probably not the case, and like that song from the overrated band, it contains whatever the viewer wants. That's what Tarantino said, so you can't argue. It's fun to think about, but it's not really anything. Tarantino's car was stolen from production. Quentin Tarantino's classic 1964 Chevrolet Malibu, used in the scene when Vincent and Mia head to the Jackrabbit Slim's diner, and also crashing into the house later, was stolen from the set, and it would stay stolen for about 19 years. In 2013, however, a San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy found 2 men stripping the car in Victorville, California. After running the VIN number, they realized the number had been cloned, and the car in fact belonged to Tarantino. As for the man who currently owned it, he was not believed to be responsible, and the car is again in Tarantino's possession, so happy ending. The famous monologue was taken from another movie. Who doesn't know the moment when Samuel Jackson delivers his Ezekiel 25:17 monologue? Thing is, it's not actually a quote from the Bible, it was in fact taken from the 1976 Japanese martial arts film The Bodyguard, starring Sonny Chiba. It's not word for word, but it's not far off, and Tarantino originally wrote the monologue for the 1996 film From Dusk Till Dawn, which he wrote and starred in alongside George Clooney and Harvey Keitel, the latter of which is a preacher who would recite the passage of the vampires, holding up his famous makeshift shotgun cross thing. I don't think it compares to its use here, but it's an okay idea. Mia and Vincent possibly didn't win the dance contest. This one's interesting as I don't really believe it's true, but a good amount of people think it is. Maybe the dance Mia and Vincent put on wasn't enough to win, and the trophy was merely stolen as we don't actually see them win. Honestly, I don't see why they'd show it, it's not needed, but the scene when Bruce heads back to retrieve his father's watch, apparently you can hear a radio saying the trophy was stolen. While this would be a great detail that honestly fits in, I don't believe it's the case. Yeah, the name Jackrabbit Slims is mentioned, but that's it. I played it back several times on high volume, but I just don't hear anything about a stolen trophy. Maybe I'm still missing something. If so, I'd love to know where, but I don't see it, and I kinda think they just won. But I do see the like button, it's right down there, and please remember to share the video as YouTube quit doing that. Also, the gaming channel is there too, for the same stuff with games. Link in the description. There could have been a Pulp Fiction prequel. As you may know, Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs, who you eventually find out is named Vic Vega, shares the same name as Vincent in Pulp Fiction. Tarantino named them after the singer Suzanne Vega. There's a deleted scene when Vincent tells Mia Suzanne Vega is his cousin, and this is when the prequel idea comes in. Featuring John Travolta as Vincent and Michael Madsen as Vic, it would have been set in, you guessed it, Amsterdam, and been titled Double V Vega. Unfortunately, it never got past the idea stages, and I'm going to assume the reason for that is, well, spoiler, if you haven't seen these movies, back out now, both characters die in the respective movie. That's likely why it would have been a prequel, and them being notably older would have just looked stupid. It's a cool idea, but not one we're gonna see. Dick Miller played Monster Joe in a deleted scene. One of Tarantino's favorite character actors, Dick Miller, originally had a small role as Monster Joe, who owns a junkyard in which Winston Wolfe disposes of the bloody car. The two would have had some memorable dialogue about body part disposal, before Wolfe heads out to meet up with his daughter Rachel, who does still appear in the movie. Unfortunately, it was cut due to pacing. And in the Pulp Fiction home video release in which it was included, Tarantino explains he loved the way it turned out, but he wanted the audience to get to the diner faster. And the scene kinda got in the way. Uma Thurman wasn't the first choice to play Mia Wallace. Oddly enough, the role of Mia Wallace was turned down by 2 90s sitcom stars, one of which being Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who played Elaine on Seinfeld, who couldn't take the part due to that commitment, so it came down to Uma Thurman and Jennifer Aniston. Obviously, same deal, her commitment to Friends got in the way, so maybe just don't go after sitcom stars, but Uma Thurman at first also said no. Apparently he was so desperate he called her up and read part of the script on the phone, specifically the restaurant scene between Mia and Vincent, and while the outcome may sound cliche, you know what happened. The mistake with the movie's intro and ending is on purpose. You may not have noticed this, but if you did, you probably assumed it was a mistake. In the opening scene, Honey Bunny screams at the diners, "Any of you fucking pricks move and I'll execute every motherfucking last one of y'all." In the end sequence, we see that moment again, but this time she shouts, "Any of you fucking pricks move and I'll execute every last one of y'all motherfuckers." While it appears to be a mistake, it was actually done deliberately, but not just to see if you'd notice. You see, the idea is the opening is told from Pumpkin and Honey Bunny's point of view, and the second time the point of view of Jules, who remembers it slightly different. Honestly, that's some great detail, and something most people aren't gonna notice. And it's because of this there is a deleted scene when Jules shoots through the table and kills Pumpkin, and then turns and kills Honey Bunny, only to then reveal it's all on his head. Again, left out due to pacing, and I'm kinda glad it was. It didn't really fit. The part of Butch wasn't written for Bruce Willis. Now, he was originally written as an up-and-coming young boxer, and Matt Dillon was meant to play him. Despite loving the idea, Dillon wanted to sleep on it, which I guess Tarantino wasn't okay with, and the role was changed to an older boxer in a more desolate state. Mickey Rourke was considered, but he passed on it, wanting to pursue a real boxing career, oddly enough. At the time, he said the script was nonsense, and later said he just didn't understand it. And Tarantino's list also consisted of Sean Penn, Johnny Depp, and Nicolas Cage, but in the end, the part did go to Bruce Willis, and he was quite happy to have it. Honey Bunny and Pumpkin's name meanings. In the case of Pumpkin, it isn't actually a fact, but I'd assume it's because in Reservoir Dogs, his character's codename was Mr. Orange, and pumpkins are orange, so it's a safe bet. But in the case of Honey Bunny, it's a bit more fascinating, as it's named after Tarantino's friend's pet rabbit, Linda Chen. She would eventually serve as Pulp Fiction's unit photographer, but her role in the film's creation goes way beyond that. Basically, she typed up Quentin's handwritten screenplay for a supposed 2-week job that took 3 months because Tarantino is an illiterate. A functional illiterate, Chen said. She said he averaged 9,000 errors per page, which he even tried to put back in because he liked them. Honestly, naming a character after a pet rabbit might not be enough, but then again, who else can say that? Jules almost had a massive afro. Yes, in the beginning, Jules was gonna have a massive afro. Due to black exploitation films Tarantino apparently liked, but the crew member who was sent out to purchase the wig didn't know the difference between an afro and a jerry curl, and accidentally bought the jerry curl instead. But when Jackson tried it on, Tarantino apparently liked it so much it was kept in, as you may have noticed. According to Jackson, all the gangbangers had jerry curls, and it may just be me, but I don't think a massive afro would have worked in these scenes. At least not as good. The music he couldn't use. In the over-the-top scene involving samurai swords and male rape, the song Kamachi can be heard playing by the Revels. He originally wanted to use My Sharona by the Knacks, but it's likely the content of the scene is the reason that didn't happen. Universal contacted them to use the song in the film Reality Bites, and the band's guitarist Brett Avery said one offer was for this hip, cool, young comedy starring Winona Ryder, and the other was for a homosexual rape scene in Pulp Fiction. That is a tough choice. Well, I say the joke's on you. On a side note, he wanted to include a Frankie Says Relax t-shirt, but Holly Johnson, the singer for Frankie Goes to Hollywood, said no, because, you know, it's all too negative. Grow up. Christopher Walken's cameo is fascinating. In the previous list, I mentioned how the shot was done in one day, the one when Christopher Walken explains the history of Butch's father's watch, but this amazing cameo scene goes beyond that. Again, the list of actors included Tommy Lee Jones, William Dafoe, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, William Patterson. But the most intriguing thing is not any of that, it's the reason why he drank hot sauce between takes. Producer Lawrence Bender assumed it was to assess the pain of the character, to make it look more genuine, but when asked about it, Walken said, "It just keeps my mouth from drying out." So unlike Nicolas Cage getting his tooth pulled and Billy Bob Thornton walking on broken glass, it's a thing. Bad things happen when Vincent goes to the bathroom. So again, saving the best for last, topping the afro fact, I can't even guarantee it's on purpose. In fact, it probably isn't, but both times in the movie when Vincent goes to the bathroom, something bad happens upon exiting, thus being the end of the movie, walking into a robbery, and more notably being shot dead by Butch, maybe the movie's most shocking moment. Like I said, I have no idea, but nowadays, who watches the whole video anyway, so the last thing may as well be something stupid. The point is, it's in the movie, it happens, so there you go. And that was 20 things you didn't know about Pulp Fiction, even though a lot of them you did know, but is what it is. Again, hit the like button, subscribe down below, and again, sharing the video is very important, as YouTube's algorithm doesn't do shit. I don't think I made any errors this time, but if I did, let me know in the comments down below. As if you wouldn't already do that. I'm the Analyst, and remember kids, unfortunately mistakes happen, grow up. So, you've made it to the end. That's an impressive feat indeed. Since you managed that, I guess check out the gaming channel, in which I cover a variety of gaming topics, like analysis videos, such as this one. If you're into that, then press the link in the description. It's that simple.